On the first sunny day in what felt like a while, I got thinking about natural flood management and how it not only benefits communities but also the environment. I also wanted to know what part Yorkshire Water plays in this. How do we work with other organisations on what exactly is the Landscapes for Water partnership? Let's talk about it. Hi everyone, welcome to The Science Behind with me, Guy. We're back again for another video and I've got my colleague Tracy with me.
Hi.
Tracy, what do you do for Yorkshire Water?
I work with the press and media team, Guy, so I look after all the inquiries coming in the media box with my team, and we also send out good news stories about what Yorkshire Water's up to.
Excellent, and what are we doing today?
Today, Guy, we're going over to Leeds to have a chat with Emma from Mott MacDonald.
Excellent, and what are we talking with her about?
Natural flood management.
Cool, let's go and learn a little bit about natural flood management.
We're here today to meet Emma from Mott MacDonald, working in natural flood management. Can you explain to me a little bit about what natural flood management is?
The way of working with nature to try and reduce flood risk in our river catchments. So it's about trying to store water right across the landscapes so that the water flows off more slowly into our rivers, so that it reduces the flood risk in our villages and towns further downstream.
Can you talk me through some of the different solutions for natural flood management?
Yeah, let me go and show you some.
Great.
So there's three main processes that you can work with when you're doing natural flood management. The first is about working at source where water falls onto the ground. The second is about where water's running off across the landscape and trying to slow that down. The third thing's about doing things when the water's actually got down into the rivers and trying to improve the function and the habitats of our rivers.
Can natural flood management help to improve the quality of the water?
Yeah, definitely. You might have seen it when it's been wet. Often you can end up with rivers that look really brown, and that's because there's loads of soil in the river that's been washed off fields. By doing all the different types of measures like ponds and hedges and wetlands and woodland throughout the landscape, we're helping to keep all of that really precious soil on the field.
Emma, can you tell me a little bit about the site where we are here today?
So right here in Bardsey, we've actually working with Yorkshire Water, who've given us a grant to help try and improve the beck that's at the bottom of the field.
Great.
And we bought this land as the East Keswick Wildlife Trust a few years ago, and we're working with the Yorkshire Dales Rivers Trust as well, and groups right across the community to try and do this.
Oh, fantastic. So can you tell me a little bit about what's happening here?
We've put in these leaky barriers that for when it's really wet, the water will trap behind them and create little wet areas or ponds. It'll basically store some water and filter it and again slow it down so that we're reducing the flood risk further downstream.
And who else has been involved in this project?
So we've had our volunteers from the East Keswick Wildlife Trust, and the materials have all come from our local reserves to build these. And we've also got the school involved, so we're also going to have some trees that are going down the slope to again help filter the water going down the slope. So
I then went over to Halifax to find out what we've been doing in that area of the region. So I'm here on the tree planting site with Hazel. Hazel, can you tell me a little bit about Landscapes for Water?
Yeah, so Landscapes for Water is a partnership project. It grew out of an initial project we did around Gorpley Reservoir, where we planted over 100,000 trees. And we did that in partnership with the National Trust and the Woodland Trust. And it worked so well that we looked at our wider land holdings. So how can we impact natural flood management across the whole of our combined ownership? So Landscapes for Water Partnership has been in existence now for around 5 years. Besides ourselves and National Trust, it involves the Woodland Trust, it involves the White Rose Forest, and it involves the West Yorkshire Combined Authorities. So there are two main aspects to the Landscapes for Water project: the tree planting element and then the natural flood management, which is the installation of over 3,500 leaky dams. The leaky dams have been funded by the West Yorkshire Combined Authority as part of their wider flood mitigation measures. And the woodland element has been funded by the White Rose Forest, and it's a DEFRA grant, and it's called Trees for Climate, And that's what's enabled us as a landowner in partnership with the National Trust. To date, we've already planted over 73,000 trees.
So why do we do the tree planting? What does it do? What's the benefit?
So we plant trees for lots of different reasons, not least of which is climate mitigation. When we're planning these tree planting schemes, we use modelling to predict which kind of trees are going to thrive in the predicted climate conditions in 2080. We look ahead a long way to see which trees are going to thrive the best based on soils, based on predicted climate and based on what should naturally be here. As the trees grow, they help to intercept the rainfall before it hits the ground. The roots help with the soil and they help to slow the flow of water from raining on the hillsides to running off down into the flood-prone areas further downstream.
I'm here with Josh to talk a little bit about the scheme.
So I'm Josh Fenton-Glynn. I'm the Member of Parliament for Calder Valley. That includes Tomberton, Hebden Bridge, Brighouse, Elland, Mythermoyd and a number of other communities that flood. And so for us it's really important that we do everything we can to prevent flooding, to protect communities, and obviously Yorkshire Water have a huge part to play in that, both because they own a lot of land and because they control a lot of water.
So Josh, can you tell me a little bit more about the benefits of the Landscape for Water scheme, say for the local environment and local community?
So obviously the big impact is that it should hopefully attenuate flooding. Prevention is better than cure of flooding. But also in terms of the community, I do appreciate quite a lot of educational work has been done in schools with Yorkshire Water, and we're also increasing biodiversity when we plant more trees. So it's obviously something that I supported when I was a councillor and now I support as the local MP.
So I'm here right now to meet two of our fabulous rangers, Nick and Morgan, and find out about their involvement in the scheme. Nick, do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
We cover a large patch that is along the Pennine chain from Marsden up to Keighley, and we look after all of the areas of Yorkshire Water's land that has public access.
So what have the Rangers been doing as part of this programme?
So we've been really involved in the school engagement side of things. We've been able to go into local primary schools around the Landscapes for Water area and teach them about moorlands and special types of moss like sphagnum, and teach them about the woodlands and how the trees are important and how they can provide natural flood management for the areas that they live in. We've also been able to take these school groups out with us and help them plant trees in the areas for Landscapes for Water. And it's nice to see that they'll sort of have a legacy in the woodland that they've created.
So what would you say has been your favourite part?
I have to say that it's going into schools and teaching some of the young kids about what we do and what we intend to do. And there's a special moment when we ask a question, and the question is, do you want to come out and do some tree planting? And there's a huge cheer, and that is a really special thing. It's a great feeling.
I then headed over to Marsden to speak to the National Trust.
We're here on Marsden Moor on a very blustery day to meet Rosie from the National Trust.
Hello.
Hi Rosie, do you want to tell me a little bit about what you do?
I work with an amazing team of rangers and volunteers and project managers, and we basically look after the moorland. So we do a lot of peatland restoration work, but we also do a lot of natural flood management and creating leaky dams that we're here to talk about today.
So you mentioned leaky dams. Can you explain a bit more about how they work?
Yeah, so leaky dams are basically, they do what they say on the tin. So under normal circumstances, when the watercourse is just flowing gently and it's not chucking it down raining, the stream can flow uninterrupted. But when we get a storm event and there's lots of water coming through the system, the leaky dams at that point hold back small volumes of water for short periods of time, and that prevents those big volumes of water during a storm from going into the watercourse all in one go, because that's when we get issues further downstream. So rather than having a big peak of flow, we get the same volume of water but over a slower period, and that just gives the whole system time to respond and time to react, and it takes the pressure out and ultimately reduces the risk of downstream properties flooding.
So how does this work in terms of flood management then?
So leaky dams like the ones that we're looking at here, they're basically they're small interventions on their own, so they're only holding very small volumes of water for short periods. But when you think about them across a whole landscape, which is what we're aiming to achieve here, And the way that they work is that basically across that landscape, all those leaky barriers are acting like a speed bump for the water. So rather than when we get a storm and the water falls on the hillside, it all runs off really quickly. If we've got leaky dams in place, that's slowing down the flow of water. It's allowing that water time to infiltrate into our soils, to be soaked up and used by vegetation, and it's just slowing everything down and giving the system time to respond.
So how many of these are you planning to install?
So there are 3,500 leaky dams going in as part of the Landscapes for Water project across this landscape, and that's on top of leaky dams that National Trust and Yorkshire Water have already put in into this area. So that will really be a landscape scale of natural flood management intervention. And there'll be different types of leaky dams. So these dams here that we looked at today are turf dams, but we're also installing timber dams, dry stone wall, stone dams, and living willow dams as well. And then we're also using other natural flood management techniques. So we're doing woodland creation, and we're doing a lot of peatland restoration work as well. So things like planting sphagnum mosses to help soak up and store water in the landscape.
So that was the science behind Landscapes for Water. Tracy, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been great fun.
Excellent. And what was your favourite bit?
There were so many, to be honest. Yeah, I like loads of it. I loved working with our rangers and finding out about how involved they are and how passionate they are about the project, and sharing it with local schools and that sort of thing. That was great. But I really loved the work that both Emma and Rosie were doing, and the sheer scale of it I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So why not give us and the National Trust social media channels a follow? You can find the links down below, and also check out the Facebook group to find out more about all of the Landscapes for Water projects. And don't forget to like this video.
Oh, give it a share as well.
Yeah, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, bye.
Bye.